Hello again. Welcome back, everyone. Liquor Hound here with you, and thank you for joining me once again for another spirit review video. So recently I was at a gathering, and a friend of mine actually had a very rare bottle, that being the 6-year-old Extra Añejo from G4 Tequila. Now, G4 stands for 4 generations, has been ran by master distiller Felipe Camarena and his sons for years and years. They create wonderful tequilas. They do a kind of a traditional, non-traditional methods, because Felipe has like an engineer's brain. So he's constantly trying to figure out, how can I do old methods but still kind of modernize them, make them a little more efficient? And so he's created things like, in the brick ovens versus just hitting them with, steam from below. He has them hit from steam from below and above. So he's basically trying to even out the baking process. He's created or converted an old steamroller into basically like a tahona, a big roller, heavy roller that just crushes the piñas. He has created a machine called Igor that like it shreds up the piñas, but he hand builds all these things to his specifications. And the other thing he likes to do is, he's thinking about, how can I keep things going? How can I help be more environmentally friendly? Because like he started creating water retention ponds on the property so that he can use that water and filter it to be used in the distillation processes, and even in the reduction processes. So a lot of his stuff, he just uses rainwater, but of course, during droughts or stuff like that, he will go to his well and use well water or a combination of the two. Now, all of his extra añejo expressions, with the exception of the 55-month one, which I do have, don't want to include it here because it is off profile. It's very, I don't know. I don't think it was in Dickel barrels. I think that was in another experimental barrels that he was trying. But that one has a really delicious dried strawberry element to it, but it does not taste like any of these. So I figured let's not put it in here. Besides, really hard to find. But I wanted to at least review the standard Extra Añejo, which is just over 3 years old because it has to be at least 3 to be Extra Añejo. This is, again, all these Dickel barrel aged, but just over 3 years at 80 proof, retail pricing about 100 and 125. Then we're going to jump to the 5-year-old Extra Añejo at 90 proof, and retail pricing around 200, 225. And last but not least, the 6-year-old Extra Añejo. This one is barrel strength at 86 proof. Now you might be asking, well, why is the 6-year-old actually lower in proof than the 5-year-old if it's barrel strength, meaning they didn't add any water? Well, I think that has to do with where these barrels were matured, because he talks about that these barrels were aged underneath the distillery in a very cool, damp environment with little airflow. And so when you have barrels like that, think cognac, think some Scotch whiskeys. When you have barrels in those cold climates without a lot of air movement, they actually kind of tend to start losing alcohol through the barrel, losing that, what they call, the angel share. But instead of like in Kentucky where it's hot, or Texas where it's hot, where you're expressing a lot of water out of the barrels and the concentration, the high ABV, alcohol by volume, in the barrel is going up, in those cold, damp climates, it actually drops. So it's quite possible that these were above 90 proof, but as they sat in that cold climate, they started probably losing proof to get down to 86. And it could also be just the barrels, the barrels that he had designated for the 6-year-old, because what he does is, I'm imagining, is when he got to the 3-year-old, he let some keep aging up to be the 5-year-olds, and then he goes through the fives, tastes them all, and figures, oh, these are, premium barrels. Let's go ahead and age them up just a little longer. And so those, I'm going to guess somewhere between 8 and 15 barrels to create 1,000 bottles. He let ride another year, and that's what we have for the very special 6-year-old. Okay, so again, we're going to start with the 80 proof, go to the 90, end on the 86 6-year-old. All right, so for about $100, you can go to your local store, hopefully, and still find, I know Total Wines, I see these at Total Wine around me, the regular Extra Añejo. Now, with demand, you don't see them everywhere, so check around, call around, look online. But for the standard G4, very, very nice nose, pretty buttery. You get a little bit of that fresh and baked agave, because when agave is baked, it caramelizes and it almost kind of tastes and smells a little bit like a kind of yamish, sometimes a little sweet potato type essence. But when it's fresh, you also get this very vegetal, almost floral aspect to it. And he does a beautiful job in his blends to create a really good balance there. So in this one, I do pick up that little, or it's kind of like a thyme, white pepper, herbaceousness to it, caramel sweetness, maybe like there's almost like a combination of a plum and cherry on the fruit. You pick up a little bit of that um, floral and minerality kind of dancing in there. And that minerality almost comes off a little sour. And again, that could be just the agave sometimes gives off that when you start aging up and getting age on it. Could be the Dickel barrels just providing that little bit of sourness that kind of works into everything, makes it feel like the fruit are a little overripe, getting kind of a little sour. But when you combine all that with that nice butteriness up front, it's perfectly fine. Let's go ahead and taste it. Mm. Wow. Ooh, that little nice mint kick is in there. Oh, that's really good. I mean, at only $100, that's a very, very good extra añejo. Good mouthfeel, solid medium viscosity. And when you taste it, on the nose, I was picking kind of plum and cherry. You get that, but there's almost actually a little lighter. Um, there's a lighter fruit, almost like a little bit of pear in it as well. And then you get that kind of that white pepper, almost like cardamom, to be honest, on the mid palate, going into a nice floral aspect, not too much because it doesn't get soapy or anything. In my mind, I like picture just like, cause I'm trying to pick out the exact floral, but it's almost like mixed mixed flowers. Definitely a little bit of like a violet in there, maybe little rose petals as well. But that nice pepper, warming cinnamon is in there on the mid palate. That little mint hits a little early. That buttery kind of tone is in there, but it's not again, it's medium viscosity, so it's not super mouth coating. And you get a good amount of oak on that back end. Overall, nice and round. Um, the oak is what really tends to linger on that one. And then that pear. All right, now we're going to go from the 80 proof to the 90 proof for the 5-year-old. $200. So doubling price. Not quite doubling age, but we're up there for extra añejo. Whoa. So on this one, the butter is in there. It's brought down a little bit. The oak is definitely bumped up. The fruit on the nose, again, a little bit of that cherry plum. I'm definitely picking up some polished tones in here where you start getting a little bit of that kind of like apple cider vinegar, just a little bit. The fruit, that cherry and plum, and this one doesn't smell like pear. It actually smells like a baked apple joining that. Baking spices seem more subdued, so a little less cinnamon, even though we're up in proof. And the oak does not seem, it's heavier, but it's not overbearing, okay? A little bit of that floral still kicking around. All right, here we go. Whoa, yeah, that's. Now I'm getting that really big, what I expect an extra añejo to be, which is more oak, right? It's in here, but it's in the great balance. Like this is when I taste this blind, this is what I want an extra añejo to kind of taste like, as far as the oak, the fruit, the floral. Caramel, with that, that when you hand make the caramel, it's got that butter in there. It's got that right up front. It rushes in with kind of like that baked apple, baked cherry, baked plum thing. Apple leading the way of those fruits. That hits really early, along with that white pepper tone. The baking cinnamon, it's in there, but it's actually underneath the white pepper. On the mid palate, you get a little bit of that kind of herbaceous minerality that I was picking up here, but much more subdued, much more balanced on the 5-year-old. You get a lot of oak, leather type tone on the back end of this one. The floral's in there, but it's a little dried and it's not as vibrant on this 5-year-old. Wow. You're almost starting to get into like that plum skin element. It's almost starting to drink like I mean, this is crazy, but some brandies will drink kind of similar to this, as far as the fruit profile and how it feels viscous in the mouth and how it transitions into floral. So this is definitely a fantastic like after dinner tequila. It's not sweetened or anything like that. There's no dosage like they would do in some brandies. No, this is just fantastically made tequila. Calls you back to that glass, lingers, everything up that you pick up front lingers for a very, very long time in perfect harmony. Oh, that's a good one. In my opinion, is it twice as good as the Extra Añejo? Man, I almost think so. I almost think it is definitely worth that price increase. But if you can't do that jump, you're going to be perfectly happy with the standard Extra Añejo. At the end, I'm going to retaste this one just to see how it corresponds to the other two. All right, now to what we're all here for, the 6-year-old Extra Añejo. Here we go. Dickel barrels. Whoa. Interesting. At first, when I first nosed it, the oak popped even more than even the 5-year-old. But that gave way really fast to almost like a fresh. It's almost like a cucumber. Yeah, a little bit of cucumber. That baked apple, plum skins are in there. A little cinnamon. It's kind of like this, where the cinnamon is actually dropped. A little white pepper, but it's, again, feels less than the 5. It almost feels a little more delicate than the 5-year-old. And by color in the glass, it, again, being the lightest in color, I think those barrels have done really well as far as just oxidation, to be honest. Like, you almost pick up a little bit of that sourdough that you get on the Blanco, the 108, and stuff like that they do. I think I even pick it up a little bit in the repo, but usually that ages out. But here, it's kind of a cool aspect to have just a little touch of that in there with all these mature characteristics as well. Yeah, baked apples and pears on this one. Little plum skin, good oak, but it feels very resinous. Like, I don't know if you could just take a bite out of the tree, almost like an old oak tree. It has kind of a little herbaceous tone, soil, earth on the nose. Let's see if any of that translates to the palate. Mm. Wow, medium high, almost medium high viscosity. The most viscous, I think, is the 6-year-old. Oh, okay. Very soft, elegant. It enters caramel, brown sugar. The fruits kind of creep in. It's like that baked apple pear, like almost like an Asian pear, but baked. Um, you get that plumminess driving in. I don't really pick up that much cherry in this one. Maybe towards the back end, you'll start to see it peek through, but it's mostly those three unique kind of fruit up front. And then you get to that mid palate, and it's just baking spices just kind of sit there and just kind of swell just a little bit. Underneath that, you get that kind of vegetal, that cucumber skin, or a little bit of maybe a little bit of thyme in this one as well. Lemongrass, is that what that is? Let me see. Mm-mm, not lemongrass. Mm, a little lemongrass. But to me, there's a really nice, almost like a very light Mediterranean olive aspect to it. Very still very fresh and vegetal from the agave. You're picking up all these really nice notes from it. A little bit of that dried floral in there. But again, he's all about balance. And in this one, you almost seem like it's the epitome of the balance of the fruit, the floral. You get that minerality, and you don't pick it up as Dickel whiskey or anything like that. It comes off like terroir, like soil, earthiness in this one. It's in the background. It's in there with that heavy layer of oak. But it's just amazing how that oak doesn't dominate anything. The oak is always laying very strong in the background. When you want to focus on it, you can, but there's all these things happening out front. Mm. Yeah, it almost has a brandied cherry character to it. But it stays very light. It stays very elegant because you get that baked pear, that baked apple, that little plum skin still rolling in there. White pepper, cinnamon, that sprinkling of thyme, a little bit of that lemongrass is in there. And again, that vegetalness kind of reminds me, again, cucumbers, cucumber skin, that type thing. And good, again, oak character. Overall, that's a beauty. The 6-year-old is fantastic. $500, now you're over doubling the 5-year-old. That's where, I mean, I might go back to it. Hmm. Yeah, this one's a little more on the, it almost feels like a little more bourbony now that I go back to the 5-year-old. Like it's a little more heavy-handed as far as the impact feel that the barrel has done on this one. It's a little heavier. It's similar, but it is not the 6-year-old. Wow. I think I'd be happy with the 5. Let's see. Go back to the original Extra Añejo at 80 proof. Hmm. Wow. See, now going back to this one, I pick up more of that citrus here, a little bit of that orange oil. Good vanilla, good caramel. I mean, to me, it's almost like this is fantastic. This is better. And yeah, it's almost worth the double the price for this 5-year-old. I think it's just below that for me. I would have loved to see this one at about 150, 175. And then when you go to that $500 $500 6-year-old, The oak in here is almost like has a little bit of like an aromatic wood, little touch of like cedar. Very light, delicate. It's a rare experience, the 6-year-old. I mean, if you have the $500, $600 it'll take to get that, you're gonna have a tequila that not a lot of tequilas taste like. Like it's super unique. It's kind of like that 55 month was. That one was super unique in its profile as well. But this one, at least you can see the lineage. You can see how they tie together as far as the age, and you can see where he pulled some really nice complex barrels out of the 5-year-old blend to keep aging up, but in a cool spot. So the oak got a little bigger, but it's not out of balance still. So he did a fantastic job. Everyone at G4 should be proud. I think they're doing tremendous work. That's why they're one of my favorite distilleries, and I need to make my way down there to visit them hopefully one day soon. But thank each and every one of y'all for leaving all these great comments. Of course, if you're on my Patreon channel, that's patreon.com/liquorhound. You can see these videos 2 weeks early, ad free, so you can get out there and hopefully find this bottle before it goes up on YouTube. Of course, I do a lot of giveaways over there. Not allowed to talk about it over there, but that's what I do for certain tiers. So hopefully you can join us over there. But if you're watching on YouTube, I greatly appreciate each and every one of you. Keep leaving all those great comments, and I'll get to them just as soon as I can. Everyone have a great day, and cheers.